The revolution in holistic health, reclaiming our roots, healing our communities. Imagine a world where healing isn't just about popping pills or following the latest fad diet, but about reconnecting with the very essence of who we are. A world where the wisdom of our ancestors isn't dismissed as primitive superstition, but celebrated as profound knowledge that has sustained communities for millennia. This isn't some far-off utopia, my friends. This is the world that Dr. Karen Haymore is creating right now, today, through her groundbreaking work with Holistic Professionals of Color, or HPOC. I had the incredible privilege of sitting down with Dr. Haymore recently, and let me tell you, the insights she shared have completely transformed my understanding of health, healing, and cultural identity. Dr. Haymore isn't just a visionary leader in the field of holistic health. She's a revolutionary force, challenging the very foundations of how we think about wellness and pushing us to confront uncomfortable truths about the systems that have shaped our understanding of healing. But before we dive into the mind-blowing revelations Dr. Haymore shared, let's take a moment to truly appreciate the magnitude of her work. Dr. Karen Haymore isn't just changing lives, she's changing the entire paradigm of health and wellness. Her organization, HPOC, is at the forefront of a movement that's reclaiming ancestral wisdom, challenging systemic inequalities, and empowering communities of color to take control of their health in ways that honor their cultural heritage. Now, you might be thinking, another talk about holistic health? Haven't we heard it all before? But I promise you, what Dr. Haymore shared with me is going to flip everything you thought you knew about wellness on its head. Because here's the truth bomb she dropped on me. The field of holistic health, as we know it today, is deeply colonized. Yes, you heard that right. Colonized. The very practices that many of us turn to for healing, yoga, meditation, herbalism, have been stripped of their cultural roots, repackaged, and sold back to us as trendy, new age solutions. It's wellness colonialism, and it's happening right under our noses. Let's take yoga, for example. How many of you have attended a yoga class recently? Now, how many of you know that yoga's roots trace back to ancient Kemetic traditions? That's right. Yoga isn't just an Indian practice. It has deep African roots that have been all but erased from the mainstream narrative. This erasure isn't just a matter of historical inaccuracy. It's a form of cultural violence that perpetuates systems of oppression and denies communities of color their rightful heritage. When we practice yoga without acknowledging its African roots, we're not just exercising. We're unknowingly participating in a system that values certain cultural contributions over others. Or consider herbalism. Long before it became a hip addition to your local health food store, it was the backbone of healing in many indigenous African and Asian cultures. These weren't just plants, they were connections to the earth, to spirit, to generations of ancestral wisdom. Dr. Haymore shared a story with me that illustrates just how deep this erasure goes. One of HPOC's practitioners, a Yoruba herbalist, told her how clients often questioned the validity of her methods until they realized similar practices were marketed under westernized labels. Her words cut deep. But when it's black, it's called primitive. When it's white, it's called innovative. Let that sink in for a moment. The very practices that have sustained communities of color for centuries are often dismissed or demonized until they're rebranded for mainstream, often white, consumption. It's not just cultural appropriation, it's cultural erasure on a massive scale. This erasure has real, tangible consequences. When we deny the cultural origins of these practices, we're not just rewriting history. We're perpetuating a system that devalues the contributions of communities of color. We're telling entire groups of people that their ancestral wisdom is only valuable when it's stripped of its cultural context and repackaged for a white audience. But Dr. Haymore and HPOC aren't just pointing out the problem. They're actively working to reclaim these practices and restore them to their rightful place. And this is where things get really exciting. HPOC's approach to holistic health isn't just about physical wellness. It's about addressing the whole person: body, mind, spirit, and community. It's about recognizing that true healing can't happen in a vacuum, divorced from the social, economic, and cultural realities that shape our lives. Think about it. When we talk about the disproportionate rates of conditions like hypertension and diabetes in black communities, we often focus on individual choices. Eat better, exercise more, manage your stress. But Dr. Haymore challenges us to look deeper. These health disparities aren't just about personal habits. They're the result of systemic issues like food deserts, lack of access to health care, and the generational trauma of slavery and ongoing racial oppression. This is where HPOC's approach becomes truly revolutionary. They're not just teaching meditation or prescribing herbs, they're helping people reclaim their ancestral wisdom, heal generational trauma, and advocate for systemic change. As Dr. Haymore puts it, healing begins when we acknowledge that the body, mind, and spirit are not separate from history, culture, or community. Let me give you a concrete example of what this looks like in practice. HPOC offers a course called Ancestral Spirit Guidance Therapy. Now, in mainstream wellness spaces, this might be dismissed as woo-woo or superstition. But for many people of color, connecting with ancestral spirits is a profound and legitimate form of healing. Imagine for a moment the power of this approach. In a world that has systematically devalued and erased the cultural practices of communities of color, HPOC is creating a space where these practices are not only acknowledged, but celebrated. They're saying your ancestors' wisdom matters. Your cultural heritage is a source of strength and healing. This isn't just about individual healing, though that's certainly a crucial part of it. It's about reclaiming practices that were forcibly taken from us. Practices that connect us to our history, our culture, and our power. It's about saying we refuse to let our healing practices be colonized and commodified. We are reclaiming our right to heal in ways that honor our ancestors and our cultural heritage. But HPOC's work goes beyond individual healing. They're challenging the very systems that have marginalized BIPOC healers for centuries. Did you know that for years, black midwives, indigenous herbalists, and other traditional healers were persecuted under the guise of witchcraft or quackery? This isn't ancient history. The echoes of this persecution still reverberate today in licensing restrictions, lack of representation in wellness spaces, and the continued stigmatization of traditional practices. Dr. Haymore shared a particularly poignant story that illustrates the ongoing impact of this historical persecution. She told me about a black midwife in rural Georgia who, despite having decades of experience and a track record of successful births, was forced to practice in secret due to restrictive licensing laws. This midwife was carrying on a tradition that had sustained her community for generations, but in the eyes of the law, her ancestral knowledge was considered illegitimate. This story is not an isolated incident. It's a reflection of a system that continues to devalue and criminalize traditional healing practices, particularly those from communities of color. It's a system that says Western medicine is the only legitimate form of healing, ignoring the fact that many of our modern medical practices have roots in traditional healing methods that have been practiced for centuries. HPOC is fighting back against this systemic erasure and devaluation. They're providing culturally specific training that emphasizes the wisdom of African, indigenous, and other non-Western healing traditions. They're advocating for policy changes to protect the rights of BIPOC healers. And perhaps most importantly, they're creating spaces where BIPOC healers can be celebrated and honored for their expertise. Now, I can almost hear some of you thinking, but isn't this just reverse discrimination? Shouldn't we be focusing on unity rather than division? And to that, I say, absolutely not. This isn't about division. It's about recognition. It's about giving credit where credit is due. It's about acknowledging that wisdom doesn't just come in one color or from one culture. Dr. Haymore shared a powerful mantra with me. We heal ourselves to heal our communities. This encapsulates the heart of HPOC's mission, because here's the truth. When we heal ourselves, when we reclaim our cultural practices and honor our ancestral wisdom, we become stronger. And when we're stronger, we can better serve our communities, fight for justice, and create the change we want to see in the world. But let's be clear. This work isn't just for people of color. If you're sitting there thinking, well, I'm not BIPOC, so this doesn't apply to me, think again. Because here's the thing. We all lose when wisdom is silenced. We all suffer when healing practices are stripped of their depth and cultural significance. And we all benefit when we embrace a more inclusive, culturally rich understanding of health and wellness. Dr. Haymore shared a story that beautifully illustrates this point. She told me about a white yoga instructor who came to HPOC feeling disconnected from her practice. This instructor had been teaching yoga for years, but she always felt like something was missing. Through HPOC's programs, she learned about the African roots of yoga and began to incorporate this knowledge into her classes. The result? Her students reported feeling more connected, more grounded, and more fulfilled in their practice. By honoring the true origins of yoga, this instructor was able to offer a richer, more authentic experience to all her students, regardless of their race or cultural background. This story shows us that cultural erasure doesn't just harm communities of color, it diminishes all of us. When we strip healing practices of their cultural context, we lose the depth of wisdom that comes with centuries of tradition and practice. We lose the spiritual and communal aspects that make these practices truly transformative. And we perpetuate a system that values certain types of knowledge over others, limiting our collective understanding of health and wellness. So, what can we do? How can we be part of this revolution in holistic health? Dr. Haymore offered some powerful suggestions. First, educate yourself. Learn about the cultural roots of the wellness practices you engage in. If you practice yoga, study its African and Indian origins. If you use herbal remedies, research their cultural significance. Knowledge is power, and in this case, it's also respect. Second, support BIPOC healers and wellness practitioners. Seek out their services, attend their classes, buy their products. Your support isn't just financial, it's a statement that their knowledge and expertise are valued. Third, challenge your own assumptions. The next time you encounter a healing practice that seems exotic or primitive, ask yourself why you perceive it that way. Is it because it's truly ineffective, or because you've been conditioned to value certain types of knowledge over others? Fourth, advocate for change. Support organizations like HPOC that are fighting for more inclusive, culturally competent healthcare policies. Use your voice to challenge the whitewashing of wellness practices in mainstream media and marketing. And finally, embrace the discomfort, because let's be honest, this work isn't always comfortable. It requires us to confront our biases, to question our assumptions, to sit with the uncomfortable reality of how systemic racism has shaped even our concepts of health and healing. But as Dr. Haymore reminded me, growth happens at the edge of comfort. As we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final thought from Dr. Haymore. She said, healing is not a destination. It is a journey back to ourselves, our roots, and our collective power. This journey isn't always easy. It's not always comfortable, but it is always, always worth it. Because when we heal ourselves, truly heal ourselves in ways that honor our cultural heritage and ancestral wisdom, we become more whole. We become more connected to ourselves, to our communities, to the earth. And in a world that often feels fragmented and divided, that connection is more precious than any trendy wellness fad could ever be. So I challenge you, yes, you listening right now, to start your own journey of decolonizing wellness. Question the narratives you've been fed about what constitutes legitimate healing. Explore the rich tapestry of healing traditions that exist beyond the mainstream. And most importantly, honor the wisdom that resides within you, passed down through generations, waiting to be reclaimed. Because here's the truth, the revolution in holistic health that Dr. Haymore and HPOC are leading isn't just about healing our bodies. It's about reclaiming our stories. It's about honoring our ancestors. It's about dismantling systems of oppression that have silenced and marginalized certain voices for far too long. And ultimately, it's about creating a world where all forms of healing, all cultural wisdoms are respected and celebrated. This is more than just a new approach to health. It's a radical act of self-love and community empowerment. It's a declaration that our lives, our health, our cultural practices matter. And in a world that too often tells people of color that they don't matter, that is a revolutionary act indeed. So as we close, I invite you to carry these insights with you. Let them challenge you.
Let them inspire you. Let them guide you towards a more inclusive, culturally rich understanding of health and healing, because the wisdom we need to heal ourselves and our world, it's been here all along, waiting for us to remember, to reclaim, to honor. And remember, your health is your heritage. It's not just about what you eat or how much you exercise. It's about honoring the wisdom of your ancestors, reconnecting with your cultural roots, and recognizing that true healing is a collective journey. It's about understanding that when we heal ourselves, we heal our communities. And when we heal our communities, we begin to heal the world. So I ask you, are you ready to join this revolution? Are you ready to challenge the colonized narratives of wellness and reclaim your right to heal in ways that honor your cultural heritage? Are you ready to see health not just as an individual pursuit, but as a collective journey towards justice and equity? Because make no mistake, this is about more than just feeling good. This is about reclaiming our power. This is about honoring our ancestors. This is about creating a future where all forms of healing are respected, where all cultural wisdoms are valued, where health is seen not as a commodity to be bought and sold, but as a fundamental human right. The revolution in holistic health is here. It's challenging us to think differently, to heal differently, to live differently. It's asking us to confront uncomfortable truths about the systems that have shaped our understanding of health and wellness. But it's also offering us a path forward, a path that leads to deeper healing, stronger communities, and a more just world. So I challenge you, take what you've learned today and use it. Question the origins of your wellness practices. Seek out and support BIPOC healers. Advocate for policies that protect traditional healing practices. And most importantly, start your own journey of decolonizing your approach to health and wellness. Because when we heal ourselves in ways that honor our cultural heritage, we do more than just improve our individual health. We resist systems of oppression. We reclaim our narratives, we honor our ancestors, and we pave the way for a future where all forms of healing are respected and celebrated. The revolution in holistic health is calling. Will you answer? Will you join us in creating a world where healing is not just about treating symptoms, but about restoring balance to our bodies, our communities, and our world? The choice is yours. The time is now. Let's heal, let's grow, let's transform together. Thank you.